Hello, today is September 9th, 2025, and the big news of the day, this is a current events podcast, I should have said that first. The big news of the day is that Israel has hit the Hamas leadership during a meeting that Hamas's leaders were engaged in the Gulf nation of Qatar. Now, Qatar, if you don't know, is one of the few Arab nations that is both host to a U.S. military base and it has relatively friendly relations with Israel, at least until today. So, what happened was um, the Hamas leaders were, as we are given to understand, meeting to discuss the latest negotiations or offer for a truce with Israel. And the United States is involved in these negotiations as well as the uh, Qatar. So the leadership of Hamas met, and Israel, as is their pattern when dealing with the leadership of Hezbollah, the Houthi, Hamas, others, the Iranians in the 12-day war, they have this ability to know when and where their enemies' leaders are meeting, and then they bomb them, which, they're at war. That is something that you do. Take out the enemy's command and control. Well, the glitch here is that the command and control here, the Hamas leadership, was in the neutral nation of Qatar. And, the question here is, was Israel right to do this? Should they have done it? Was it smart? Was it dumb? Was it effective? Well, we don't really know about the effective part yet, 100%. But let's review real quickly here. So, October 7th, 2023, Hamas, which has had multiple conflicts with Israel, and those conflicts were resolved, or not resolved, paused due to various ceasefires. Hamas broke those ceasefires every single time. And then October 7th, 2023, they broke it big time by actually invading Israel with thousands of their terrorist or guerrilla fighters. It was actually a very sophisticated attack if you study how they did it. It was actually quite interesting in a analytical way. But they attacked civilian targets for the most part, and they captured hundreds of Israelis, took them back to the Gaza as hostages, and basically refused to release them. And Israel then, of course, retaliated, invaded the Gaza Strip. Pretty much everybody knows about what's going on there. Again, whether or not Israel is doing that the proper way, by laws of war, they were attacked. They have the right to defend themselves, which again takes us back to the attack on the Hamas leadership in Gaza. So, what we know is they are Israel's calling this Operation Pillar of Fire, and Summit of Fire. Pillar of Fire is something from the Bible. Summit of Fire, I'm not sure where they got that, but it sounds kind of cool. Unless you're Hamas and you're in the building that got blown up. But from what Israel is telling us, it involved 15 Israeli warplanes. They dropped 10 munitions, meaning bombs, on the target. There are some drones involved also. They haven't really gotten into detail on what that means. But again, Israel definitely had people on the ground there, which is not hard since, again, Qatar has pretty good relations with Israel up to now. And the question I have also, which was not mentioned, is Israeli planes must have overflown other nations, most likely Jordan, Syria, and/or Saudi Arabia, to get to Qatar, unless they have a secret airbase somewhere that no one's talking about, which is possible. We assume the planes took off from Israel and flew over several nations, dropped the bombs, flew back. So there is in Qatar, by the way, I think I mentioned this before, hosts a U.S. military presence, a large one. There is a large air base outside the capital city, which houses some 10,000 U.S. military personnel, and a lot of the U.S. air operations in the Middle East come out of there. So Israel notified the Trump administration that, hey, we're going to be attacking these guys. And we haven't seen the timeline on that yet, but they knew ahead of time because think about this. A bunch of warplanes are heading toward what looks like the American air base outside of Doha, the capital city, Americans are going to be like, "Uh-oh, what's going on? We might be under attack." Well, obviously, Israel had to inform the U.S. The U.S. supposedly informed the Qataris that, "Hey, you're going to be attacked pretty soon." Again, haven't seen a timeline on this yet. But my question is, was Hamas then notified by Qatar? From initial reports we've seen so far, there were several Hamas casualties, including the son of their chief negotiator. But it looks like the Hamas leadership, which is the real target, survived. We don't know if they're injured, but they survived, at least as of the latest report from Hamas. Now, whether you believe what Hamas is saying is a whole other thing. I personally like, well, they lie about a lot of stuff, but we'll see. But they did list the names of several of the dead. Apparently, one Qatari security person was also killed. Not sure what the story is with that. But again, by the laws of war, Hamas attacked Israel October 7th. Israel has the right to respond. Now, whether this was smart or not is a whole other question. Qatar is one of the very few, as mentioned, Arab nations that has had pretty good relations with Israel. Israelis are welcome there, at least until now. They were heavily engaged in the negotiations between Hamas, Israel, and the United States. That's a value right there. Now, should Israel have attacked them in such a high-profile way in Doha, the capital of Qatar? Might not have been a good idea. There are other ways to do it. Israel is also well known for just plain old assassinating people the old-fashioned way. Send someone in there with a gun or a small bomb or whatever. Drones, who knows? But again, this is a very high publicity event. Smart? I don't know. Were they within their rights to do it? Definitely yes. But we will see what the end result here is and what kind of diplomatic debris seems to fall down. And if it hits Netanyahu and the Israelis, we will see. All this is going on while Israel is also launching a major offensive in Gaza City. And again, the question of does Israel have the right to fight Hamas in Gaza? Unquestionably, yes, they have the right. But are they doing it in a responsible, smart way? That's also a good question. There's definitely a famine, hunger issue going on with the civilian population. And again, Hamas fighters are embedded within the civilian population. They don't wear uniforms unless there's a truce or ceasefire, and they come out and do their little mosh pit thing with their AK-47s and their very clean camos. But when the fighting starts, they go back to civilian clothing. And hey, how many of those civilian casualties were really Hamas fighters? Who knows? They're not wearing uniforms. But Israel is definitely making themselves look like the bad guy in a lot of what they're doing in Gaza, which is not smart. Does Netanyahu care? I don't think so. Again, hitting the Qatari capital, probably not smart. Within the rights? Yes. Smart? Probably not. So the greater Middle East war continues to expand. Uh, Qatar is, relatively influential nation in the Middle East, despite the size. They're very rich. They have connections everywhere. They are one of the Gulf nations that is very has actually punches above their weight militarily. I don't really expect Qatar to respond militarily, but the diplomatic fallout could be significant. All right, we will continue to monitor and assess, and we will let you know what's going on. Again, this is podcast, current events, news, and commentary from Wars and Conflicts of the World by HistoryGuide.com. Hope you found this interesting. Please subscribe everywhere we have our content. Substack newsletter, YouTube videos, and, of course, this podcast. Thank you very much, and good day.